Hi, it's Christine with the Sisyphean Journal. I am listening to Karlyn Borysenko's anti-abortion strategy with journalist Amy Littlefield. Now, I'm not going to bother trying to play it for you. I'm just going to pause, listen, reiterate what she said, and respond. So I'm going to pause here, listen to what she says, and then comment on it. Now, the first thing I'm going to do before Karlyn says anything is I'm going to respond to the description of this session. The Institute for Research on Male Supremacism is pleased to welcome Amy Littlefield for a dive into the history and strategy of the anti-abortion movement in the United States. So I find it interesting that it's Institute for Research on Male Supremacism. The bulk of the push for widespread legalization of abortion was a combination of libertine feminism, which is women should be allowed to rut with impunity just like men and never have babies if they don't explicitly engage in that sex act with the intention of making a baby. But they were primarily funded by people like the Playboy Foundation and Zero Population Growth. So this wasn't it was male supremacism in terms of irresponsible men not wanting to have to pay child support, wanting to rut like weasels and not take any responsibility for any children they made. So yeah, there was that aspect of male supremacism there. But also it was a huge population control thing. So, and population zealots can come in either sex. Then she is an abortion aspect correspondent. Now, access sounds benevolent. Sounds like we just want it to be available. But in practice, access means covering up for people like Kermit Gosnell. The entire justification for state officials allowing this guy to have a 15-year-old girl draw up the anesthesia chart, have flea-infested cats roaming around crapping on the floor, have untrained people doping these women within inches of their lives, starting abortions and doing medical procedures when there isn't a doctor on the premise. The entire justification for allowing that was access. And I've covered this before, what I call the Compton Carr effect, after Janice Compton Carr. The abortion rights movement, I'm not talking about pro-choicers, I'm not talking about people like Karlyn. My target audience is people like Karlyn. They oppose anything that would shut down the Kermit Gosnells, much less anybody who's not quite that bad. So when they say access, they don't mean we want safe, legal abortion available. They mean any abortion. They don't care who's doing it. They don't care whether it's safe for the woman or not. And then, covered reproductive health and justice. That's just a slimy way to avoid saying that you're for abortion. Because if they were for reproductive choice, tell me this, why do you never hear them complaining about the paternalistic barriers between women and getting their tubes tied? When I was the pro-life guide for About.com, I had a lot of pro-choice women complaining that they wound up having multiple abortions because they were having failure after failure after failure with non-surgical pregnancy prevention strategies. My washing machine's done. And they wanted to get their tubes tied, but paternalistic doctors would be saying things like, well, you might regret it later. You haven't had any children yet. You're too young. So if it's all about women making reproductive choices, why aren't they getting their knickers in a twist about access to female sterilization? Okay, I'm having to pause in the middle of Karlyn saying a lot of stuff. She started with a video of Amy Littlefield talking about writing a book where she tries to understand anti-abortion people, and that she kind of finds that repugnant but necessary. And then Karlyn interrupts the video to say that if you really want to understand your opposition, you need to try to understand them, not understand them to gain propaganda points so that you can, counter things, but understand them so you really know where they're coming from, which of course is a really good thing to do. Part of how I understand where the abortion rights people are coming from is years and years and years of listening to National Abortion Federation meeting tapes where they're talking to each other when they don't know there are any outsiders there. And then hearing from former abortion workers. They are a treasure trove of information. Now, Karlyn invited Amy Littlefield to come on her show and have a discussion with her because Karlyn says she understands the opposition. I don't think Karlyn fully does. There is a very big difference between living something and studying it. I think it would be far wiser for her to kind of mediate between this Amy Littlefield and somebody who's been immersed in the pro-life movement for a large chunk of time. And there's plenty of us. She can go with, well, the thing is, we all have different perspectives. I would recommend somebody like Dr. Anthony Levatino. He had performed abortions and then quit and converted. He actually played the doctor in the movie Unplanned who performed the abortion that shook Abby Johnson to her core. Then there's Abby Johnson, but she only has her niche. Carol Everett is an excellent person. Oh my gosh, Josh, I can't remember his last name, but there's a whole lot of people. Karlyn, I can give you a list of fantastic people. I could come on if they're not accessible. I have been doing pro-life research and been working hand in hand with a lot of pro-life organizations since around 1984. So, but I also think it would be perfectly valid for a reasonable, moderate, sensible, pro-choice person like Karlyn to go head-to-head with an abortion enthusiast. I think that in and of itself would be very valuable. So, I mean, Karlyn, go head-to-head with her about whether she even understands normal, ordinary pro-choice people, because I don't think she does. And I also think she doesn't understand, I don't think either Karlyn or Amy Littlefield really understand the core of the abortion rights movement. I sincerely doubt that Ms. Littlefield has attended even one National Abortion Federation meeting or risk management seminar. I don't think she's gone to any Planned Parenthood meetings and heard them speak to each other, not realizing that there's not an insider there. So there's a lot that can be done. I really think that this is a valuable idea moving forward, but I think it's incomplete. I remembered the name of the Josh fellow. It's Josh Brom, that I think would be ideal for Karlyn to have on, because he describes his job as helping pro-lifers be less weird. So his job is to understand where pro-lifers are coming from, to critique their thought processes so that they can steelman their arguments, so that they are also steelmanning the abortion rights arguments and putting forth coherent and accurate arguments in favor of the pro-life stand. So actually, of all the people I would recommend that you have on, Karlyn, Josh Brom. If you get him on, you've got it nailed. One thing I really like about what Karlyn's saying here, and I'm going to provide a link to her video, is she is distinguishing between herself as pro-choice and Amy Littlefield as putting forth pro-abortion. Because there is a huge, huge difference. And this is something that I wish a lot of pro-lifers would get through their thick skulls. I've seen people who identify themselves as pro-choice, but would bend over backwards to help a woman avoid an abortion and would actually try to talk her out of it. Okay? If you did a Venn diagram of pro-lifers and pro-choicers, there is an area of overlap there. They may self-identify as pro-choice or self-identify as pro-life, but they're in that section of the Venn diagram where they believe the same things. So, you know, there is the pro-abortion, and let me tell you, they are rabidly pro-abortion. So I really appreciate, Karlyn, that you are distinguishing between pro-choice and pro-abortion. Good for you. So I thought Karlyn was going to go into a little bit more detail about what Amy Littlefield had to say, but I appreciate the open invite. And let me tell you, Karlyn, I would watch that in a heartbeat. Good on you.